A very good afternoon. This is Avindra Som and you're listening to the news in detail on Gold FM.
The news headlines on Gold FM.
Opposition MPs appeal for global intervention over safety concerns and media freedom. Indian External Affairs Minister reaffirms neighbourhood first policy in talks with Vijitha Herath. All services resume at Department for Registration of Persons. Guidelines issued on conserving power and energy. Global gold prices dip, but local prices slightly on the up. Explosion at Texas oil refinery. 66 dead in Colombian Air Force C-130 crash. Kusal Perera out from national team selection.
The top story on Gold FM.
A letter signed by Sri Lankan politicians across many party lines, including opposition leaders Sajith Premadasa and former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, is calling on international professional bodies to intervene, warning that the country's media and legal institutions face what they describe as grave and sustained threats to their survival. The letter makes for an alarming reading. At its heart is a warning that goes beyond the murder of one man. It speaks to the slow erosion of the very institutions that hold a democratic society together. The letter speaks of the events on the 13th of February, where attorney at law Buddhika Mallavarachi and his wife were shot dead in broad daylight near a high security zone. Within an hour, police had issued statements suggesting the killing was linked to the lawyer's criminal clients. The signatories to this letter call that intervention reckless, a deliberate attempt, they say, to shape public perception before any investigation had even begun. But it is the letter's warnings about the media that strikes perhaps the sharpest note. Sri Lanka's government is pushing a proposed anti-terrorism law, and the letter states plainly that media institutions are directly targeted by its provisions. Owners, editors, executives, and journalists at every level, it says, face obvious vulnerability. The signatories argue that legislation strikes at the very root of the democratic values and demonstrably breaches Sri Lanka's obligations under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The letter also points to what it calls the extreme politicization of the police force, undermining public confidence in the impartiality of criminal investigations, including the inquiry into the lawyer's killing. The letter closes with a direct appeal, urging international legal and professional bodies to intervene to help preserve, in their words, a culture which we have held sacrosanct over decades.
This is the local news on Gold FM.
The Lanka Private Bus Owners Association warned that the annual bus fare revision scheduled for July may move to April if fuel prices rise again next month. This follows a 12.19% fare increase implemented at midnight yesterday, raising the minimum fare by 3 rupees to a new total of 30 rupees. While bus operations return to normal today, some drivers argue that the increase fails to cover the rising costs of spare parts. Further price hikes impact student transport as All Island Inter-District School Children Transport Services Association President Harish Chandra Padmasiri announced a 12% increase in school van fees starting May. Amidst these rising costs, fuel queues resurfaced at several filling stations today, with some outlets forced to close due to the lack of supply. The Commissioner General of Essential Services issued a new energy-saving guideline for all government institutions in such a backdrop due to potential import disruptions caused by Middle Eastern tensions. These measures aim to conserve fuel stocks as regional instability threatens the national supply chain. The price of a bag of cement increased by approximately 175 rupees, driven by the ongoing economic crisis. Building material retailers confirm that a standard bag of cement now sells for 2,250 rupees in the local market. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Construction Association, Susantali Narachi, noted that the prices of other essential materials, including stone and sand, also rose significantly under current conditions. Now, in such a backdrop, the price of gold in Sri Lanka increased today despite a significant downturn in global markets. Local retailers recorded a 24-carat gold sovereign at 370,000 rupees, up 5,000 rupees from yesterday, while a 22-carat sovereign reached 340,400 rupees, which is also up 5,000 rupees. According to Raman Balasubramaniam, the secretary of the Sri Lanka Jewelers Association, the increase in gold is due to private banks purchasing the dollar at a much higher rate. This domestic rise stands in stark contrast to international trends, where the precious metal entered a deeper bear market phase. In global trade, spot gold prices fell as much as 2% before settling at $4,335.97 per ounce. Investors continue to unwind positions as a strengthening US dollar and elevated treasury yields reduce the allure of bullion. The dollar index rose 0.5% on Tuesday, making the greenback price metal more expensive for holders of other currencies. Since hitting a record high in January, spot gold lost over 22% of its value, marking its most significant decline since September 2011. Commissioner General of Essential Services B.K. Prabhat Chandra Kirti issued new guidelines for all state institutions to conserve fuel and electricity due to potential import disruptions. This directive mandates a 26 degrees Celsius minimum temperature for air conditioners, the use of virtual meetings instead of physical travel, and carpooling for officials. Authorities estimate that saving 1 litre of fuel daily across 92,000 state vehicles could conserve 110 million litres annually. Additionally, street lights and promotional screens must be deactivated after 9 p.m. to ensure national energy security. Now, there was quite a revelation yesterday by the Iranian ambassador in Colombo, Dr. Alireza Delkosh. He revealed that the Sri Lankan side invited all 3 vessels that took part in the multinational naval exercises in India, one of which was later blown out of the water near Sri Lanka by a US submarine. He had other clarifications too. Delkosh insisted that vessels are not being charged to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, despite there being reports to the contrary. On the Iranian vessel that met its end near Sri Lanka, IRIS Dana, he had this to say.
According to our information, Dena was not ready for war, and it was not here for war. It was not here for conflict. It was participated in peaceful exercise in India. During presence in India, the vessel, 2 other vessels were invited, I repeat it, invited by Sri Lankan side to come here. And just they came here upon their invitation. And when they were here, they didn't receive any alert in advance from United States. They attacked it without any war, without any alert. And because we know more of these killed people are not armed army, they were music group, music band. Their weapons were saxophone and violin, and they were killed. 104 people without any alerts.
He then gave further clarity.
During the exercise in India, your Navy commander invited from Iranian Navy commander to send these vessels to Sri Lankan's waters in order to have friendly visits. 3 of them. One went to Indian coast and 2 of them came here. Dena was attacked and Bushehr is here.
In the meantime, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar emphasized that India will continue to prioritize its neighbors following a high-level discussion with the Sri Lankan Foreign Minister. In a post on X, Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar confirmed he spoke with Foreign Minister Vijay Herath last night to discuss bilateral ties and regional concerns. The 2 ministers also exchanged views on the escalating conflict in the Middle East during their telephone conversation.
Now for some news in brief.
Public services at the Department for Registration of Persons resumed from 11 a.m. today, restoring all operations, including one-day night issuance after an island-wide disruption caused a major computer system failure yesterday.
The business news on Gold FM.
Global oil prices have surged as market volatility continues to rattle energy sectors. Brent crude climbed to $104.10 a barrel, marking an increase of over 4%. West Texas Intermediate followed a similar upward trajectory, rising by $4.11 to reach $92.24.
International news on Gold FM.
US President Donald Trump claims the United States and Iran held productive conversations regarding a total resolution of hostilities in the Middle East. Writing on social media last evening, Trump announced a 5-day postponement of strikes on Iranian power plants, a move that caused immediate drops in global oil and gas prices. Speaking at a roundtable in Minnesota, he had this to say.
As I announced earlier, based on preliminary conversations between the United States and Iran over the past 2 days, I've directed the Department of War to temporarily postpone planned strikes against major energy and electricity targets in Iran. They have very, very big, new, actually, and very expensive, billions of dollars it costs to build them. One missile, one of our powerful ones, and it comes down to the ground like it was made out of dust. But to determine whether a broader agreement can be reached, we've had very good discussions, very, very good discussions. And you have to understand, I know my whole life has been a negotiation, but with Iran, we've been negotiating for a long time, and this time they mean business. And it's only because of the great job that our military did is the reason they mean business. They want to settle, and we're going to get it done, I hope.
Trump also went on to say that Iran should never have nuclear weapons.
Hopefully this will be possible, but no matter what, we'll ensure that Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. They would have had one if we allowed the Obama deal to stand. That was the Iran nuclear deal, they called it. They would have had one. Marcia 3. I tell you what, Martha, we would have nuclear weapons up there when, would you say, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 4 years ago? We would have been in a position that nobody wants to be in. We won't allow ourselves to be in that position.
Later speaking to reporters, Trump stated what he wants Iran to do with the enriched uranium.
Over the past 3 weeks, the United States military and our partners have been decimating Iran's military capabilities with overwhelming firepower, skill, lethality, and force, and we're destroying their ballistic missiles and drones programs with launchers down by more than 90%. We're hitting their launchers at a level that nobody even thought of before, 90%. They can't launch them, and they don't have very many of them, because most of them have been annihilated.
However, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said in a social media post on Monday that, quote, no negotiations have been held with the US, unquote. Now the death toll from a Colombian Air Force Lockheed Martin C-130 Hercules crash near Puerto Leguizamo rose to 66, with dozens injured after the aircraft reportedly struck near the runway during takeoff, caught fire and exploded.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Ryan Gosling's sci-fi adventure project Hail Mary secured $140 million at the global box office, marking the biggest debut of the year.
Sports news on Gold FM.
Kusal Jonith Pereira has been permanently excluded from Sri Lanka cricket squads, with the 35-year-old veteran exiting the contract list after an international career spanning 22 tests, 116 ODIs and 95 T20 matches. And that's all the news for now. Stay tuned to Gold FM for the latest updates. This is Avinindra Soma for Gold FM News. Have a great day ahead.